What's up, everybody, and welcome to another Fireside Chat. My name is Sam Donovan, and I decided to regroup with the big guns. We have Season 1's Jess Martin, Season 4's Jon Schneidman, and Season 5, Jack Powell. How we doing, gang?
We're doing great.
I didn't want to flex and you back and get me beat. I was just like, I'm not even going to try because I'm going to get fucking punked by this guy. And it's just not
You're bigger than your body gives you credit for, though.
Your body is a wonderland, Schneidman.
John Mayer famously said that your body's a wonderland. Why am I not reading the towel of John Mayer? I feel so much better about my life.
Well, we have a lot to get to in this breakdown. We had not one, but two rounds of challenges and eliminations last night. And wow, we're all wearing black. I think we're all in mourning for both of the players we lost. I'm just noticing that.
Pour one out.
Pour one out for Austin and Courtney. Both great games. We can start with this first round. Running it back to the first challenge, doing the touchy subjects, quizzing all of the players on their standing in the game and where they think everybody else stands. Eli ends up winning the exemption, but not after, a few feathers are ruffled or rustled, I believe, in all of the questions being answered. Schneidman, anything that stood out to you during touchy subjects?
Yeah, I mean, I think what was very interesting, Jess got all of the, argue with who's the nicest person here once. She got, I'm consulting my handy dandy list. She got friendliest and she got most social. Okay? And I'm not the first person to point this out. She pointed it out herself. But Aaliyah got the quietest, despite, I don't think any of us would describe her as a quiet person. And Austin got sneakiest, which is just, it's brutal at Final Six when you think you only have one ally. That's really tough.
Yeah, especially after Joseph just went the round before, one of his closest allies. Jess was the writing kind of on the wall for Austin at that point. To me, it was like, ooh, this is definitely, like Schneidman said, not looking good for Austin at this point.
I mean, Austin was playing an openly sneaky game. He wasn't hiding it at all, so I don't think he was surprised he got that. I think he voted for himself. But yeah, this was a tough round for Austin. I think he needed Joseph one more round to keep himself safe. Ryan having a compass was tough, and Austin's such a great player, and I think he potentially could have worked something out, but it seemed like Jess had a tiff with him all of a sudden now, so that's one less person for him to work with. So I think he had a tough deck dealt to him this round that he couldn't really come back from.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about, especially at this point in the game, it's really about threat management and about managing the perception that others have of you. And I mean, the three necessarily, I would say, big dogs in the game at the Final Six. Eli's number one, but he's exempt. Ryan's a close second. He turns out he played the compass. Number three was Austin, and playing a sneaky game while not winning any exemptions, having one ally, all the cards are kind of folding against you at that point. And so I think all the daggers stabbed in at the right time this time. And I think everyone kind of realized that, this was the time to get out Austin instead of later down the line. It's like someone you want to get rid of before the end of the game. You usually try to get out the biggest threats nowadays at the final six or the final five, or in regular modern Survivor. A little bit earlier than that, you want to get rid of the people who stand a threat at actually sliding in towards the end. As they all said, Austin is the sneakiest, and so Austin could very easily find a way to slither his way to the end. So I think this was the right time to take him out, because he could have easily made it to the end, in my opinion.
Yeah, and he had Courtney too. They were a very obvious duo, and you knew if Courtney goes to the final two, Austin's going to the final two. Or final three.
It was kind of interesting, though, because Ryan and Austin both knew from the outset, it seemed like, that it was going to be between those two. And Austin, like you said, has Courtney on his side. And Jess was kind of, I would say, the swing in this entire round, because she at first with Aaliyah was talking about maybe teaming up with Courtney, making a girls thing. Assuming that's the case, you would team up with Austin. And Jess seemed like she was ready to kind of make a move against Ryan in this situation before eventually just kind of falling in with the path and just kind of going majority rules, going with Austin. I feel like this would have been a great time for Jess to kind of stick to her guns and make that aggressive move. Yes, Ryan plays the compass, and that would have been bad, revisionist history. But regardless, I think it still would have been a good time for her to at least try to make a move, no?
It seems like Jess has these tiffs that come up with people out of the blue that prevent her from making moves, and it seemed like she was upset with Austin from either the previous crossroads, or she mentioned that she was mad that about his answers in the touchy subject. Yes, and that she didn't like that he put her on touchy subjects for under the radar when she's been saying she wants to be seen as playing under the radar. And then she was upset that he told Courtney about her block a vote, but like everyone else knew about that. So, I mean, it didn't really seem like enough of a reason to not work with someone, but what do I know?
I think Austin, and we're going to say this about a few players. I think Austin, in those twist rounds, in the boomerang and the reverse vote, those were opportunities to really shake up the game, really shake the status of the game. Because even at that point, we were talking about Eli as a big target on the board, and talking about Ryan as a big target on the board. And those rounds came and went without any serious attempt being made on those guys. Those twists were structured in a way where it would have been possible to get them out without putting a big target on yourself, right? Like that could have been a death by everybody sort of thing. And I think Austin, coming out of those twisty rounds, and once Joseph was going, his road got very, very narrow. And he's a guy who tried to work a whole bunch of options. And, I think in the end, Joshy could have been somebody he would have worked with. Obviously, he was working with Annie. And I think just those numbers and options for him to make a real strike against Eli and Ryan got narrower and narrower until by the end, he was living and dying by whatever Jess wanted, which you don't want to be stuck, whoever that person is. You don't want to be stuck hoping one person will bail you out,
Yeah, I mean, especially in a game like this. I mean, I think we can, like the last time we were all together in this beautiful fireside room lit by the nice natural lighting. We talked about people not taking the action to make the move that they knew was the best for their game. And even though Ryan had a compass this episode, at the first part of this episode, and played the compass in the first part of the episode, there was still a lack of activity, especially from Jess, to make the move that I feel like was personally necessary. I mean, in my opinion, if you're at this stage of the game where I don't know, it's not we don't know if it's final. Well, I don't know if it's final 3 or final 2 yet, right?
They've all been assuming it's final 3.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know. So you got to assume, okay, final 6. We got 6, 5, 4. There's 3 rounds left to go. Got to assume maybe one of those rounds, one of them will pull out an exemption or a compass. You got to go for the shot. And in my opinion, just looking at my handy dandy Edgic here, for all the people wondering if I'm doing Edgic, yes I am. Jess is my losing finals pick, because I think that Eli and Ryan are going to desperately try to get rid of Aaliyah or each other if it's a known final 3. If it's a final 2, they may try to get rid of Aaliyah, and then the whoever wins that final exemption between Eli or Ryan takes Jess with them, and they win in the jury against Jess. What I've seen is that, again, there's this inactivity on making the right decision for the game. regardless of the result. And I think that that's going to spell doom in front of the jury.
The next outcome of the next vote is very highly regarded in that situation. So let's table that conversation for a second and say any last words on Austin's game. He, like you said, Schneidman, his road got narrow, but I think he played a fantastic game. He came back from a Kilimanjaro. We mentioned that. He played our week-long game a couple of years ago. Got swap screwed early on and made an epic run in this game, frankly. I love watching Austin play these games. He's a joy to watch.
Yeah, for what it's worth, his run in this game was very, very topsy-turvy. He has been through a lot of crazy tribal councils, losing Aaron, losing Josh. The formation of his bond with Courtney at the very beginning of the game was incredibly, incredibly important. Not just for Austin, but for everybody, especially on original Team George in the game. And as much as people want to say, yeah, this season may have come down to a race between Eli and Ryan, Austin was always there and always an important figure. Maybe he wasn't the person featured the most in the episode or shown being the one really pushing the gun, but he was always a contender and always there.
Yeah, Austin was so great to have back again. He was such a promising player in Kilimanjaro, and it was so sad when he went out in the swap screw. But thank you for coming back, Austin. You should be very proud of how you played. You crushed it.
Amen. All of our black shirts, we pour one out for Austin. But we have to move on because, and your black water bottle, my God.
We're really in mourning.
We're truly in mourning. When you lose this many people in one night, my God.
Yeah, especially so late.
Moving into the next round, we go straight into a challenge, this time building a torch using solo cups, toilet paper rolls, and ping pong balls. This one made my fingers hurt laying on the couch. My fingers were cramping up just watching this.
CCJ wasn't fucking around here.
Eventually, though, Eli pulls out yet another win, his second in a row. No, third in a row.
Three-peat.
Third in a row. Three. What a challenge. So, Eli's safe at Final Five, and it's really looking like Ryan is going to be gone on this round. But he's got a little something Jack knows a little bit about and is hiding something. Jack, do you want to start us off on how it feels to play these kinds of rounds?
Of course I do. Of course I do. Yeah. I had a round very similar to this, although it was much earlier in the game. Around, oh gosh, I want to say it was Final 14, I think. I'm 14 13. Something like
you
that.
had a lot of these rounds.
I had a lot of those too, yeah. It was the round where I idled out Ziania. And there's this feeling where you truly know that there's like not a lot you can do besides just playing the compass. And for what it's worth, I think Ryan did a really good job to try and change the votes, try and make something happen. But I think in his mind, the best play was just being like, you know what? Let everybody target me. They know they have to target me now. I'm just going to play the compass and get out who I want. And I mean, sometimes that's exactly what you have to do. Trying to get these people to do a move with me, I don't think is going to be the best play. I think it's just playing the compass, shocking it up a little bit, finding another one, and then figuring out what to do next time. So the feeling is great. You know, the feeling is really great, especially so late in the game, like really getting down to the nitty gritty, and you know you're on the chopping block and you pull that thing out. That is just a huge thing to put on the resume, especially after you played one the previous round. You know, people think, oh, Ryan played one of the final six. You know, maybe he's just maybe he's just a little too paranoid. Maybe he's a little too scared of everything going on and he just panic played the idol. Now we can get him. The tenacity and the ability to just sit back and be like, I'm going to hold two idols till final 6 and 5 is a really, really good thing to present in front of a jury. Really, really good thing. So, props to him.
Yeah. I've a question. I think Ryan's journey in this episode through the final 6 vote and through the final 5 vote was very fascinating because it made me start to wonder, how is Ryan thinking about his own game? Because we have been talking in this space about the big dogs, Austin, Eli, Ryan. Austin, Eli, Ryan. We've been saying that over and over again, and we've been hearing other players say that. But it doesn't seem like Ryan himself has gotten that memo. I think based on his reaction to I call it the burn book challenge, he gets very, he sees Jess get voted most friendly and most sociable, and he sees her as his competition. And I'm curious what you all think about that. Is this a case of, does he think Jess is in his lane? Because I would think he would think Eli's in his lane. So I'm curious what you all think about that.
I think he definitely was surprised to get under the radar because he has been playing such a smooth game, and I don't think he thought anyone else noticed that. Austin obviously has noticed it. Eli has noticed it, but this is the first time anyone has called it out publicly. So I think that was surprising for him to see. I don't think he thinks that Jess is in his lane, but I think he views Jess as competition and as someone else that he needed to keep around for one more vote to make sure at 4 he's not the big target. And he needed to start planting seeds to the other players. Like, hey, Austin said this about her. You saw what she got voted. We need to watch out for her. She's very passionate about her charity. She's going to come in with this story about how much her charity means to her and pull at your heartstrings. We got to look at her as someone who could win in the finals.
I think that's exactly right. You can see him in this round too. He goes to Eli, and I don't think it's that he thinks Eli's in his lane. I think it's again Ryan playing that perfect middle game where he's minimizing his threat level while pushing everybody up on that pedestal. He's saying, "Look, Eli, that same exact story that Jess just mentioned." I think he's continuing to play that game where I'm not that big target. I think he secretly does perceive himself that way, but he's still trying to outwardly project, "Hey, I'm not that target yet. There are bigger worries in this game than little old me, 6'10" Ryan, or however tall he is."
He's 6'10".
That might be an exaggeration. We'll need him
He's
to.
like
No
6'5", and it makes me furious every time I think about that.
That's crazy.
Because the reason I'm asking is because nobody bites, right? These things are the friendliest and the most social. Jess gets both of those. Jess tried to very publicly claim the Joseph movie at the end of the last round. But it doesn't seem like the other players in the game are taking her seriously as a threat. I mean, we even hear Eli make what I think, if he's right, is the best read of the game, which is he's talking about Jess getting friendliest and most social, and he's like, that doesn't mean anything in terms of who's actually going to win and who's a threat. I got voted most likely to win. So, sure, you could call her friendly. Lots of friendly people get to the end and don't get any votes. I think, but so that's his read. While Ryan is like, no, this person is a problem, and nobody even really considers it. I mean, I guess this is where we need to get into the conversation of what is Jess's threat to win the game? What is Jess's threat level? Is Ryan making a good read here, or is Jess the person that he needs to get out? Does he beat, if he went to the end with Eli and Aaliyah, does he win? I think he thinks he does. My read is that he really thinks Jess is a threat.
So he said it during Crossroads. You don't know what the jury's thinking. We have no idea what the jury's perception of Jess is, but all the players left in the game kind of have the same read that she's a sweet mom with a story to tell. Regardless of whether she's made big moves, she has a story that's really close to her heart.
And other than Eli, she has not had antagonism. I mean, and even the Eli antagonism, it's unclear to me how much he's even aware of that.
Yeah, I think she's got hope.
Yeah, it can be super tough. Trying to figure out what the jury what the jury is thinking versus what the game is thinking, because once an idea gets in somebody's mind in the game and they start telling other people that idea, it starts to become like a little hive mind. Like if everyone started saying Aaliyah was the biggest threat at the final six and it started to get spread around, that would be the new stigma. Meanwhile, the jury may think, hey, Ryan's just easily winning in the end, like he's getting all of our votes. So it's super tough. If you get the right read and if you know the right read and can really play that out in the game with the jury's support, huge. At the same time, you get it wrong, it could be a fatal mistake bringing the wrong person to the end.
I think that's the most fun of this entire game, right? Is we have players like Eli and Aaliyah, I think, are of the same mind, where they're like, get me to the end, I can argue my way to the win, it doesn't matter who I'm sitting next to, I can win this game. Meanwhile, you have the Ryans, who I agree with you, Schneidman, I think he does think Jess is a true threat. Him and Jess are both thinking right now, who's on the jury, who's most likely to vote where. They're thinking of that jury management and really trying to play the different angles. It's just fascinating to watch the different styles, especially this late in the game.
Should we have the Jess conversation now? Should we do it? Because I think, something that Kayla and Jess said last week that I think was very true was that she has actually been in a position of power this whole time. And there is a badass version of her game where she gets to the end with Eli and says, he existed at my pleasure. What has he done? Congratulations, he won challenges. Congratulations, you talk shit at Crossroads. It was all me. And she, we're not here to psychoanalyze, but I think due to whatever, I think there's two fatal flaws that are making her game actually kind of tragic to me, which is that because she is in that power position, but strategically she keeps giving away that power. She keeps saying out loud, I'm not a threat. Like she is saying over and over and over and over again, I have no power. These guys are talking over me. These guys are the big threats. Over and over and over again. And then when somebody else says it, she takes it very personally. And it seems like within the context of the game, she is a person who, if she doesn't get what she wants, like in the context of Ryan playing his compass, or if she gets some sort of unwelcome feedback, Austin not mentioning her as a threat, she thinks it is appropriate to go maximalist. So when Austin said that she wasn't a threat, she called him sexist. When Ryan compassed out Courtney and created a world where Jess is now going to the end with either Eli or Ryan, that monologue that she gave at the end about her charity, that was a bit of I hate to say that, it was a bit of a meltdown because the tone of it and the language she used about pouring herself out for her charity and all the children that'll suffer if she doesn't win. And you look at the faces of the other players and they have glossed over. They are completely over it. But she thinks it felt to me like she was saying, I'm going to lose, feel bad for me. I'm going to lose. You should fall down and let me win. That, again, is a reasonable strategy to create that environment. She doesn't know that she's doing it. She really doesn't know that she's doing it. She tried to claim the Joseph vote. Nobody gave her credit for that. Nobody in the game gave her credit for that. She's being told over and over again by Joseph, by Austin, you are not being seen as a threat. And rather than doing something with that, she gets mad. She gets angry and feels that she needs to make it about something bigger than the game. And she just gave away all these perfectly workable opportunities. And it is it's tragic because it was right there. It was right there. And if we're talking about roads that narrowed, she had herself in a position at the end where in her version of the game, she needed an inside straight. She needed to be able to get Ryan one round and Eli the next. That's a great plan. And for reasons outside of her control, they were not available to be voted for. And that's why you take the shot when you can get it. You know, if we're talking about Austin again, like her road narrowed on those twist rounds too, because if she had tried to make it happen, the only reason Eli's still in the game is because she gave Eli her 2 votes that she could have given to Annie. Annie could have stayed in the game. And that made her road narrower. And so she's constantly thinks that it is something, that it's one of her identifiers. It's her age, it's her gender, but it was right there for her the whole time. And I don't, and rather than try to grab it, she's falling into this self-pitying dance. And I think Ryan doesn't see it. I think all the rest of the players see it. And I think that's why they're not taking her seriously as a threat. Aaliyah and Eli said it. And Aaliyah was trying to play Eli a little bit, but I think they meant it where, like, Jess is not going to be able to stand up for herself. I don't think she knows any of this. I don't think she recognizes any of what I'm saying. But I think a lot of the other players do. And it's sinking her game when it didn't have to. It really didn't have to.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think her game has had a lot of self-sabotage. She has come in this mindset that she's the older woman. She is not supposed to succeed. She has to make herself meek and be under the radar. And she has gotten so into that mindset that she has just not seen any of the opportunities or the spot that she's in, which is unfortunate.
And she says she wants to be considered a threat because she says so. Because she says so. If I were on the jury when she made that statement about how Austin only mentioned the males and not the females as threats, if I was on the jury, what I would have said was, then why am I sitting next to Annie on the jury right now? Then why am I sitting? And look, Kara, that's the boomerang twist, whatever. But like, these guys are here still because of you. Because of you, Jess. And I don't like, she's articulating these things to us and to other people. But when other people articulate it, she gets very insecure. And it's complete, and it derails her every time.
It's quite the tragic flaw. I mean, it is truly a Shakespearean character, which is quite rare on any show, any reality TV, anything. And to see this person, this player, who Schneidman who so aptly put it, is truly understanding what's going on. But the second that she is faced with that in practice, there's this sense of taking a little bit of the martyr approach, having like people getting like throw the pity on me. I feel this. I am this. And I think it is truly, truly tragic because I think there's that killer sense that's lacking of the action in a more game and less personal sense. I think if there's this lack of I think if you take that speech you made at the Final Four, put it in a completely different light. Don't do it in reference to your mistakes, your failures in the game. Just put it in towards a natural conversation. It carries so much differently. Maybe it makes you a threat. Maybe it makes you truly sympathetic to everyone. You know, it's like, I agree, Schneidman. It is quite literally, it's sad. I don't know a better word to describe it than sad. And sad has so many meanings that can be applied to it.
The worst part about it is going back to Schneidman's very first point of this whole thing. He could have twisted this into an epic game-winning speech, into an epic run at the end. and make a truly stamp herself within EO, and we may still see it, right? She may turn this into an epic final speech. We still have an entire round and a final ascent to go, guys. But the fact that it's gotten her to this point is difficult to watch. I think it's hard for the viewers too, right? We're watching an hour to 90 minutes each night. These players are in this to win this for so long. We've all been there, and we are just playing a game, and I think everybody needs to have that level set in their brains. But it's hard to conceptualize that, especially when you're playing for so long and so many hours. But it truly seems like it's really gotten to her more than it's gotten to other players.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. Whatever her reactions were to things that other people said, however she took them, I'm not. That is that whatever her reaction is, understandable. Like everything that she has felt about the way other people have talked about her, I am not criticizing. What I am criticizing is how she went about dealing with that. Yes. Because it has become a self-fulfilling prophecy over and over again of she says nobody takes me seriously in the game, then she doesn't want to take the risks earlier in the rendezvous that would be required to become a threat. To be taken seriously as a threat, you have to take risks. You have to be loud. You have to draw things together. That's part of the game. It's nigh impossible to get far and be seen as a potential winner threat without doing something risky. And she has not, at every moment when something risky is presented to her, she has rejected it to the point where, again, if we're talking about the final 5 round, she needed Ryan not to have a compass or Eli not to win exemption. That's a luck thing. It's the plan to go to the end with Lee and Courtney is perfectly good, but it was a plan that was brittle because it relied on neither of those things happening. It could have happened. We could easily be talking about a world where Ryan went home this round and Eli goes home at 4. And maybe one of them still do go home at 4. But because of decisions she made earlier, she created the narrow path, and it seems like her reaction is everybody, rather than try to spin what just happened, it's the world's out to get me. Have we maybe spent too much time on Jess? And I think the reason why we have spent this much time is because we were she's so easy to root for. She's so fucking easy to root for, and it was handed to her on a platter. So that I think is how many times are we going to say Ryan's playing great?
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say. As much as we want to, Eli's doing awesome. Ryan's doing awesome. Yeah. Eli's doing awesome.
Yeah. So
we love an underdog story.
What?
We love to see an underdog rise from the flames at the end of it.
Yeah.
All well said. It's another fascinating aspect of this game, right? We can focus so much on the people who went home and the ballistics that they were throwing, or Eli being a challenge threat, and it's these other players that deserve the most conversation at this point. Yeah. Getting back on track to where this vote actually ends up. So we talked a lot about Ryan and Jess's perceptions of each other. Ultimately, it's Courtney who writes Ryan's name down on her parchment about 30 minutes early, keeps it there. Ryan gets wind of this, and essentially knowing that he has the compass and the vote is 100% his say, is going to end up voting for Courtney here. He stands by that decision. I think he thinks that's the correct decision, not only because Jess he perceives as a threat, but because he knows at this point Courtney is never going to work with him, and especially at Final Four, you need to at least have a good idea where everybody's going to vote, preferably with you, or at least a potential to work with you. Whereas Courtney, 100% is off of Ryan's ship, not going to work with him at Final Four. So, I mean, if I'm Ryan, I think this is the right move. You get somebody else that's not with you, and somebody who just, in our favorite challenge, the Burn Book, wins most frantic. And I think at this point, it's time to have that out of the game so that you can focus on yourself. But yeah, I'd love your thoughts on Courtney's exit here.
I agree. I think it's a good decision for Ryan to do that. I mean, for obvious reasons. I mean, I think there's an argument between going to the Final Four with two people that are not threats to you, two people who you can bring to the end, and one person who is a threat and you can't bring to the end. That person wins immunity who is a threat. What are the two people that are not a threat? What are they going to do? They're going to vote for you, and then the other person's just going to vote for you, and then you're out the door. Whereas if you want to go to the Final Four with two people that could be considered real threats and one person that really isn't, then you got some options. And I think that's a little bit of maybe was going on in Ryan's head. Taking out Courtney here maybe guarantees another leg in the game if we go down to a final three. And it's a final exemption challenge at the three. But beyond that, I think Courtney is one of the most fantastic characters I've ever seen on this series because I've never seen anything like it. She was fanatical. She was incredibly emotional. I can understand why people. Again, it's kind of like the Abby Maria debate way back in Philippines, way back in Cambodia. And while Courtney was compassed out 4-1, there was always a little bit of a debate of like, okay, when is it time for Courtney to go? Because the strategy, she's just difficult to work with. And I think that was a problem for her game.
Yeah.
Quick fun fact, I once drank Johnny Walker Black with Abby Maria, and she called me a bear. So, shout out Abby Maria.
It's true.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sweet.
It was great. Great times. I do think she is a bit of an Abby Maria type. I think any one of the Final Four could win this season in a sweep, and Courtney is named my MVP. This season does not exist in the same capacity that it does without Courtney. My God, was she good TV, and was she a fun player to watch? I hope we can get her back in minis, week-long seasons, a returnee season, whatever it may be. Courtney, please stay on Expedition's radar.
Yes. While I understand Ryan's reasoning, how could he do that to us, the viewers?
And Courtney had game. Like,
yeah, she had a pretty decent game.
I would have loved to hear what she had to say at the end.
Me too.
like
Me too.
her confessional at the beginning about like I've been leaning into being the stupid girl. She knows. She knows. Talk about self-awareness. Like in that final 5 round when she talks about, I think it was Aaliyah that she says like that she talks about I can make Eli feel comfortable. I want to go to the end with you and Jess, but I can make Eli feel comfortable. I can let him think he's playing me, but actually I'm playing him. Mm-hmm. I think she was right. Like, Courtney going is actually great for Eli because Courtney was ready to get him. So I want to honor the character, but I also want to honor the player because I think, like, constantly, by her design, she downplayed the actual game move she was doing. But I think she was fully there strategically, even when it seemed like she wasn't.
Yeah, I think one of the greatest moves she made was actually quite early on, like in the entire game. She basically had a full, revolution from the original Team Sandra party and was like, I'm going to work with most of the Team Georges. I'm going to make that really tight bond with Austin and Annie. Incredible for her game. It got her in so thoroughly with the real power structure, especially at the rendezvous, and I think she really latched onto that, whereas someone like Josh maybe necessarily didn't do that as well as I think Courtney could have or did.
Yeah, Eli and Austin, she got in the right spots. Absolutely. We will miss you, Courtney.
Pouring out for Courtney, a great game player.
Your body is bigger than you give it credit for. Wait, what's the lyric? I just fucked with
you.
Oh, that was right. Everyone listen to John Mayer tonight.
Cry my eyes out. Listen to John Mayer.
Just glued to my bed, staring up at the ceiling.
All right, so now we enter the Final Four. We have Ryan, Eli, Jess, and Aaliyah. I think we have a fantastic Final Four. I still can't see where this is going. I think it highly depends on who wins this final exemption challenge. I would say Eli probably needs it most at this point. After winning 3 in a row, I think the target is squarely on his back, despite Ryan playing the 2 compasses in a row. I think he's public enemy number 1 right now. It'll be fascinating to watch these dynamics. I think the Final Four vote is always so fascinating to watch. I'm backing Eli on this one. Would love to see him win the challenge just to see what happens. But any other thoughts on the Final Four here?
It's a great Final Four. It will be interesting to see who wins. Eli has obviously had the hat trick, but the final challenge usually has a balance component to it, which the ladies usually are better at than the guys. So I could see Aaliyah potentially taking this one. We'll see what CCJ has up her sleeve, though.
That's a really interesting scenario. If Eli or Ryan does not win, and if it is Aaliyah or if it is Jess that wins the final exemption, as much as Eli's a big threat, there's got to be some consideration of Ryan as well from everyone, right? It could be a really interesting debate. It could lead to a fire-making challenge. I love a little flair. I love a little tie right at the end, making it interesting. Yeah, I personally, I think Eli, I'm backing him as well. I think he's had a really good presence giving confessionals this season and is really kind of driving his own story in a way. He's setting up the Prince 1.0, Eli 2.0, Eli 3.0 in a very clear way. And I think that's really presentable to a jury. And I would love to see how he does that. And so I would like to see Eli get through it.
Can we talk about? I think we've committed the same sin that the rest of the game was committed. Can we talk about Aaliyah's win equity? Because I think it's actually really high.
Yeah.
I think if she gets through, she articulated some things for us in that episode that I think are really helpful for her moving forward. She said towards the beginning of the episode, Annie leaving was good for my game. It opened up options for me. I care about people's relationships with me. So we were like, why didn't Aaliyah stick up to try to keep Annie in the game? Or why didn't she send it to the wheel? She has answered that in a way that I am satisfied with. She did not feel comfortable with Annie at all. She feels more at a working relationship with everybody else. And she has worked the hell out of those relationships. She is so fucking charming. She is so likable, immediately. And she has an amazing social perspective. And she also, that line, I got quietest even though I yelled at people. And something she said at the crossroads. Mm-hmm. I wrote all these down. I pulled a chest. I wrote it all down because I was like, she's creating the narrative. She's creating the narrative that she can walk in the final segment. And something she said in front of the jury, people think they could beat me and that's okay. I'm just enjoying my time exploring. That's an amazing line because she can now walk into Final Ascent and say, I think she's getting there. I don't know why anybody would vote her out now. But I think she'd walk into Final Ascent and say exactly what we want Jess to say. What we wanted Jess to say, but Jess can't say anymore, which is, these guys didn't do anything. They made a lot of dust. I'm the one who kept their asses in the game. I have been in charge socially. And if there is frustration with, let's say she goes to the end with Eli and Jess. I think if she goes to the end with Eli and Ryan, it might get tougher. But let's say she goes to the end with Eli and Jess. I think all she has to say is, isn't he kind of annoying? Isn't that cockiness a bit much? And if that rings true to enough jury members, I think that can lead to a win for her.
People believe that if she says that exact thing. I mean, coming her, that's a perfect thing for her to say. She's been so cheeky and bombastic when she does speak up in these situations that it would be just so interesting to watch her take on any of these other Final Four in a Final Ascent because she is incredibly well spoken and is very convincing. Plus, I think, like you keep saying, she has friends on this jury right now.
Yes.
She has a couple of votes, I think, locked in as long as she doesn't shit the bed, frankly, at the final, which I could not see happening. Because, again, she's such a great speaker and convincing.
She's very good at this. Yes.
No matter who gets there, we will have a very fun final ascent to watch.
Amen to that. I think that's a perfect note to end out because we will break down even more after this. Let's all sit back, enjoy the week until the next episode. For Jess Martin, for Jon Schneidman, and Jack Powell, I'm Sam Donovan. This has been another fun fireside chat with some of your 4 best friends. We will see you next week.